Alright, so now it's a lot later, man. You know, it's been trying to flood over here in Houston, so it took a little while. I did get some parts in. Working on this fuel system. Went ahead and got a pump and pre-filter, post-filter set up. Had to get all the AN fittings, adapters and all that kind of stuff. Hey, trust me, if you need to hook up on them AN filters, hit your boy up. I'm selling AN filters now too, so if you need them, let me know. We'll build your system up and get it right. But got my filters, got my pump, got my regulator, all these different type of AN filters that we're gonna put on there. Also ended up doing the same thing for the rails. From the rails, I'm gonna end up doing a Y. So it's gonna come from the back, hit the Y, go into the rails. It's gonna come out of the rails, and then it's gonna go into the regulator that's right there. Actually, wanted to keep factory fuel tank, at least for now. I'm gonna try to see if I can make it work. So basically, had to add the big line in there. And the line goes down in there. This the hole for the pickup and everything. Mine was mechanical fuel pump, so it didn't have no pickup. I mean, it had a pickup, but no, nothing. Pretty much just a pickup in there and a return line. So got the tank out. Didn't really get any video of that because all that's underneath the car and don't want the tank to fall on me and all that kind of stuff. And it's real dirty in there too. So, but got all that done. Been putting some line together. Had to enlist the help this time. But putting the line together. Got some thick line, running some 12, 10, and 8 AN line. So it does kind of adapt down as you go closer to the rails, but at the same time it's what's recommended. So whole system is in there, or whole system right there. Changing the tank, doing a little fabrication on that, and after you end up getting the fuel line done, then gonna end up dropping the motor in. And after that, once it's primed and got some oil pressure, this thing definitely gonna be hitting off. Seeing what that cam sound like. See? So this fuel line is actually pretty thick, and it's got metal inside as well as the rubber part, and then the braided nylon as well. That way it can handle all that pressure that's going in. So right there, building the line with the AN fittings. That's actually some real thick line, that 12 AN right there. So putting the fittings together so there's no leaks. Fuel system coming along. Got that part there done. And that's gonna end up going into the first fuel pump, and then it'll just go down the line. So gonna see if we can end up keeping this factory fuel tank like we started. plan seems to be coming together. So that main stretch, you see the fittings on there, line perfectly cut. Boy, TY on the cut, get to the pump, get back to the line. Everything is in there all tight and neat. Thing looking real good. So now we're gonna start getting this other line together, the return line. Again, like I said, we basically adding on and making this piece work, even though normally it probably wouldn't, or normally it wouldn't. So now that that line has been put up there, we actually gonna put the fuel tank back. That way, if things run too late, I can go ahead and push the car back into the garage so it ain't sitting out overnight and in the rain with no hood on and all kind of stuff. So White Horse is back in the garage. The garage area is all dirty and messy. Got to step over stuff, but you can see right there, fuel line was also ran. Actually ran it in the same location as the normal fuel line. The light is concerned, that's a wrap. Yeah, I won't say a long day. Got a whole lot done. You know, doing the fuel lines, doing the fuel pumps, getting all those fittings on, getting all those AN fittings done right. All that stuff takes time, because I mean, you definitely don't want to end up with any leaks or anything like that. No pinch lines, no lines that could end up getting, you know, too hot sitting next to the muffler or anything like that. So it takes a little while to do all that kind of stuff. Didn't really have any video of it because I'm pretty much under the car. Don't have any way to kind of prop up the phone or anything like that. So unfortunately, you can't see exactly how it was done, but it was still kind of in the process of finishing the fuel system. I ran the lines last time, and now I'm trying to make sure where I want to put my fuel regulator is actually gonna go. So fuel comes from the back of the engine, comes through the rails, and then it's gonna go into the regulator, and from the regulator, the return line is gonna go back to the fuel pump. So I think that I'm going to sit it somewhere in this area, just so that it's sitting in front of here, maybe off to the side a little bit. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, how exactly I'm going to do that and make that work. So I want it to sit here somewhere, but I may end up kind of putting it a little lower or off to the side. So the first thing I wanted to do was actually put my water pump on. Okay, so the water pump gaskets have been put on, the plate as well. So it's pump, gasket, plate, gasket, and then the timing cover. So that's been put on. I kind of matched up the screws from a picture that I took from before. So kind of put those screws back where they go, and then I guess you could really kind of figure it out by the lengths. Some of them are different lengths. That's really why I took the pictures, but was able to kind of put that back fairly easily, so no real issue there. Pulled out an old school wrench. I'm about to get this back on, get back to work. Thinking about how I was going to make it work. Remember, I basically said that I wanted to take this and basically kind of have it sit out here in front of the engine somewhere, right? It's not going to be an issue for the distributor, because the distributor don't move, you know, and if I need to move it, I'll be able to get to that screw, so that'll be cool. But if I wanted to sit out here somewhere, I think I'm kind of probably going to end up being like, maybe like right here. And I basically had the idea, because I used to use backstrap a lot when I was doing audio, but this time I didn't want it to be able to move too much. So once I cut this cut this kind of short, and you know, this is actually kind of thick and gonna be pretty rigid, but once I cut this short, cut it probably about right where that mark is, put a hole in it, that should stay. And I may even cut it just a tad bit shorter than my mark, but yeah, that should stay up there and be fine. So if you look at it, this is where I kind of was saying I wanted it to sit. So I went and found a kind of a thicker piece of like backstrap kind of. Remember I was saying I used to use backstrap all the time, so that's kind of where I got the idea from. But I didn't want it to sit this low because it would have been in the way of my hose here, which is going to my radiator, or will go to my radiator. But I wanted it to sit up. So I went ahead and got some of these shims. This is what I was talking about, basically spacers, a longer screw or bolt, and then of course the nut on the bottom here. But putting all three of those together, and this is pretty tight too, so I don't think it'll be any issue. You know, it doesn't bounce too much, so I think all that'll be straight. And then once I put this into here and this into here, then I think those will be fine. In building this fuel line, I did want y'all to see this kind of closely, just in case you want to try it yourself. So you got your AN fitting. So it's AN on both ends, but this is the AN fitting adapter. So this is the hose in adapter. Basically what happens is you can see that this piece is being screwed out. This piece screws in, and then it also has screws here. So what happens, you take this piece and actually reverse screw it onto the end of your hose. And it's actually going down. Now it does get tight. You can see that it's basically coming through there, right? You can kind of see that, but this is not tight. You can actually pull that off, right? So on your hose end, this piece does go on there. And like I said, you go opposite of normal what's tight, so you're screwing counterclockwise to get this to fit on there. But you'll see how it's deep off in there now. Keep screwing. Once it starts to get tight, it's a lot closer. Okay. Now this piece screws in here, and of course when it screws in, it starts to push out on that piece that was already in there. So now it's actually pushing. So it's got, like, just imagine that this is the hose that's in there. The hose is now, this piece is screwing in there, so the hose is being pushed to stay tight. And it's basically going to form that bond to where it's not going to come out. And that's how this works. So this piece screws in, and then eventually this piece is going to screw in right there on that hose end, and then that rail end, and that regulator end. And that's what I'm doing here, making this little piece. I do have to, I'm gonna use the wrenches to kind of get this tight, because eventually it gets to where hand tightening it is pretty rough. So, but just wanted y'all to know or to see kind of how all that was working. So, after a whole lot of wrenching to get these pieces on, so you can now see, as far as the rails are concerned, they're all on, going directly into the regulator. I still have to put this sensor on, fuel pressure sensor, and I'm going to run this line once I put the motor in, so that I can make sure it's, you know, the right length. So when I do that, I'll just take this piece off, you know, kind of measure it to where it need to go, take this piece off, build a line, then put it all back. And then also coming into the rails from the back of the car, and got this Y set up, and it's gonna come and feed each rail. So all that's already built up, tightened down. So that's straight to go. And then this piece here is done too. And we get this piece once we get the motor in. So